Greetings. I see you've made your way past enemy lines to the dark outpost. Welcome, Patriots. I'm David Zublik, your host on this excursion to the darkest outpost of the human mind and beyond. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. We've got a jam-packed program for you today. In the first hour of the program, Emmanuel Blue will be joining us. He joins us every couple of weeks to talk about some very important things that we need to be aware of when it comes to conspiracies, when it comes to our faith, and when it comes to how we should live our lives and what we should watch out for. Emmanuel Blue will join us in a moment, and my understanding is that for the very first time this broadcast, his true identity, or at least his image, will be on the screen. He will be appearing as himself for the first time ever, and we're certainly pleased about that. Emmanuel Blue joins us in a moment. And then in the second hour, Jenny Silcox will be with us, and she's going to be discussing the dangers, and I do mean the dangers, of robotics and artificial intelligence when it comes to our society and the way we live our lives. Will artificial intelligence, also known as AI, take over our lives? And is the COVID crisis, this pandemic, actually code for certificate of vaccination ID AI? Think about that. Artificial intelligence. Are they planting things in us? In the next hour after that, Dr. James Fetzer will be with us to talk about the moon landing hoax. Yeah, we just passed the another anniversary of the moon landing, and we talked about it a little bit the last time we had Dr. Fetzer on the program, but he wanted to get into it a little bit more deeply today. So we're going to talk about the moon landing conspiracy. Did we ever really go to the moon? Are we there now? Are we on other planets as well? And if it was just a big Hollywood production, who filmed it? Dr. James Fetzer will join us in the third hour of the program. And then we're going to round out the show today with a woman who called into this broadcast Saturday night when we did our Saturday night free-for-all. She told us about a near-death experience that she had. And people were so impressed by her telephone call, I asked her to come on the program and delve a little deeper, because apparently she's had more than one near-death experience. We're going to talk with Terry in the fourth hour of the program today. So that's our agenda for today. And before we do any of that, let's do as we do each and every. I forgot to put my hat on today. I was just running around getting things done. Nonetheless, before we do that, let's do as we do each and every day and honor our nation and its flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Let's talk about this before we bring on Emmanuel Blue. I just want to mention one quick thing, won't take too long. Whether we like it or not, these things right here are smartphones. They're data mining machines, folks. Researchers examined 250 of the most popular apps on iPhone and Android. You know what they found out? They found out that roughly 60% of these apps share your data with other websites and advertisers. Even the weather apps that you download, we're using data for advertising purposes. Now, the best way to avoid this invasion of privacy is through the use of a VPN, or what's known as a virtual private network. Well, my favorite VPN is Virtual Shield. It can be used by anyone who cares about their privacy and should be used by anyone who cares about their privacy. Virtual Shield effectively protects your data from corporations, hackers, and your internet service provider with no work on your end other than turning it on. Even those working at Virtual Shield can't see your data due to their strict no-log policy. The longer you go without encrypting your connection, the more vulnerable you become to advertisers and hackers. The most tech-savvy people that I know won't use anything other than Virtual Shield as their VPN. If you're looking for a way to protect your data from advertisers, corporations, and hackers, you will love Virtual Shield. Virtual Shield, right now you can get 50% off if you sign up during the next 24 hours. Just go to this website, virtualshield.com/Zublik, virtualshield.com/Zublik, or just click the link in the description of this video to get Virtual Shield today. All right, let's bring in our guest, and he's going to actually tell you his real name, and that is Mr. Pearson, Francho Pearson. Welcome to the program.
Yes, sir. In the flesh.
And looking real good, I must say. I'm glad. What prompted you? Let's start this to finally review. I mean, obviously, the information you have been providing our viewers, they love you. They absolutely love you. I get a ton of emails about your appearances on the program. And what prompted you to come out and reveal your true identity, Mr. Pearson?
Well, a few months ago, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm going to give God his praise. It's part of the journey, and the journey has timing in it. And I try to see God in all the things that I do, and especially the major things that I do. And about a few months ago, God started tugging at my spirit saying, you're being too low key. The Bible says, do not be ashamed of the gospel that I preach. In perfect love, cast out all fear. So in conjunction with that, I just started seeking his face and saying, God, you really want me to? He says, yeah, I need you to, I need people to see you because you have a special gift.
You do.
Yeah.
You do have a gift.
And it shakes me up sometimes. So when you and I did a show 2 weeks ago about the CERN and a few other things, I texted you 3 or 4 days later, and you were on your vacation, and hope you had a good time.
I did, but I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad you're here.
But here's the thing. I'm glad that we didn't have the show last week, because the things I'm going to show you today, it is by far the most incredible thing God has ever showed me in my lifetime, and will probably be in yours. And it's not bragging. It's just that God, he's got his hand on me in a special way. And this is one of the reasons. Now, I'm going to also say Dr. Winnie Hartstrong.
Yes. You know her?
That's one of my heroes. I had seen her video pop up as I was checking out some of your shows. And I always believe there's a divine hand at work. And God had me watch her show. And I was like, you know what? It's time. This lady goes by faith. She sees Christ in it. And she has no fear. And she pulled apart this George Floyd thing in a way that you and I wouldn't be able to see it. But look at the divine hand. She just happened to read a magazine days before she actually had a conviction, or in conjunction, however she put it together. She actually was able to say, you know what, it's time. So, Winnie, if I was a seamstress, I'd make you a cape, and I'd put a big H on it, and you're Superwoman for me. And
she's one of my heroes too. I really admire her very, very much.
She's helped seal the confirmation that it was time. Because see, these people aren't playing with us. They are not playing with us. And God's like, I did not give you this gift to hide it in a box. People need to understand, I am not a prophet. I am a seer. I connect dots. I have 40 years of research as a former journalist and radio commentary. And he's blessed me with the ability to connect dots in the spiritual fashion, the political fashion, the social fashion. I can no longer hide that on a rock. And I've got to put a face to it, because the bottom line, people, it's about salvation. If there's ever a time God is showing us the distinction and drawing the line between God and the devil. This is the time. And what I will reveal to you today, it's going to knock your socks off. It's going to literally knock your socks off.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Now, I will ask you this. How would you like to be referred to going forward? As Franchot Pearson?
Franchot Pearson. It's a
Is it Franchot? I was using the French pronunciation, Franchot. Okay.
Yeah. I'm named after a French actor, Franchot from France.
Yes.
My middle name is Wayne, and that's from the Duke. So my parents loved the movies, obviously. So when you take Franchot and John Wayne together, out comes Franchot Pearson. And my spiritual name is Emmanuel Blue. God be with us in heaven.
All right. Well, we'll refer to you as Franchot going forward. Now that I know how to pronounce it, I was given do a little French pronunciation there, making the T silent. But now I know. Now I know how it's pronounced. So we'll go forward with that. Okay. So let's get started here. This is the title of today's broadcast is 1984: Cracking the Code. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the book 1984 by George Orwell. Big Brother is watching you, whatever you do, wherever you go. And it sounds like you're going to break some of this down for us today. So take us where you want to take us, Franchot, and let's get into this.
Thank you. Cracking the Code. And also, if I can talk about the YouTube that I have.
Yeah, well, please promote your channel if you have a channel.
You can go on Franchot Pearson on YouTube, and you can see that God is using me in that respect. Again, please pray for me. All this is new to me in terms of this technology, but I'm going by faith, and I'm asking God to guide me because the word has to go forth. So yeah, George Orwell, that famous book, right?
Absolutely.
1984. However, it was written in 1948. Remember that? Yes. Titled 1984, but written in 1948. Now, check this out. George Floyd's death was 5/25/20. Eric Gardner's the first man that said, "I can't breathe." We're going to get into that. Then we're going to look at the CERN, which I brought up 2 weeks ago. And that date of 9/29/1954. And in relation to Eric Gardner, the white police officer in New York who choked him to death, which I sent that picture to you, you'll see when he bent over, although the football jersey had 99 on it, when he flips over, it's 6'6", and I can't breathe. I'm going to tie all this together along also with Prince. This is why God is saying it is time. Now, I want to do a little background. I want to play that the minister that I had shared with you a few weeks ago about the CERN, and he's going to break that down. So if you will, let's go into that.
Okay.
But I'm gonna try. Now,
Pastor Darby.
what is CERN? Now, I'm gonna break this down as easy as I can possibly make it, so you'll understand it. There is a facility over in Switzerland. It's a 17-mile underground circle that they put 300 feet underground, and it's 17 miles wide. What they are doing is they are taking matter, or you learned this in school where you are. You know what an atom is. You know matter. You know the building block, the smallest particle, matter, right? They're taking that. It's a magnetic field and they're shooting it as fast as they can get it because they're trying to go through another dimension. They've already said what they're trying to do. Now, the particles that they're shooting create something. And I'm going to get into this to show you how all of this is working. Now, this is the most dangerous thing that there is. This is the revelation. This is what the book of Revelation was talking about. They are going to have this thing that's going to be in full power by September this year. They've already started up. It takes months to get it at full speed. They had it started 2 years ago, but it wasn't enough power, so they doubled the power. And they started it up this time. And what it does, they find in other things that it does. And they say they don't know what's going to happen. That's what they say. I don't believe that. But they say that something is going to bend time and space. Now, you've been watching this through movies all the time. You've been watching this. I told y'all that they are putting this stuff in the movies because they're conditioning you for it. Because they're conditioning you for what's coming. You got to realize all the movies is about fighting against this alien thing or whatever's coming. They're getting you ready to fight against something that's coming. Y'all there? Now, so what they're doing is with this over in Switzerland is there's now Stephen Hawkins, which is the top physicist. You know that little crippled dude in the wheelchair, but he's a physicist. He can't even talk, but he must got some type of good mind. He told him don't do it. He said they are getting ready to open the gates of hell. He said don't. He said it's the scariest thing he's ever seen. And you gotta realize this guy's an atheist, but he knows don't do this because he knows that they're trying to open space. Now, every movie, especially the latest superhero movies, is telling you the same thing. All the Transformer movie was about opening a portal to get stuff, really trying to bend space to make it easier for whatever coming from one dimension to the next. It's just a window. It's an opening. You remember a movie called Stargate? It was just an opening from one place in space to another. You got what I'm saying? Time travel. You can say all that, but it's basically just portals. They portals. Now, I taught this a while back in a message called The Portals of Darkness. And I was saying stuff that I didn't even research. I didn't even know. I was saying that about a spirit. And I was so shocked how accurate I was when I researched it now. That what I was talking about was exactly what they're doing. Are y'all know what I'm saying? So, now, when they take these particles and shoot them at the speed of light, when it gets to full capacity, it's going to release something called antimatter. Say antimatter. So we got matter and antimatter. The matter is good matter. That's good stuff. That's what we are. That's what you can see. But there's also, but antimatter is the opposite. It's like darkness and light. Matter would be light, and antimatter would be darkness. This machine is allowing them to collect antimatter or darkness. Now, they say that the antimatter that they get, what they're collecting, comes from the place on the other side of that dimension, right? Come on, y'all stay with me now. I told you this is going to be scientific a little bit. Now, they have found what they call the wall. The wall they have found by this machine they got, that there is a wall that they know that is holding back antimatter or darkness. They know it. Now what they're doing this time is going to find the building blocks of that wall so they can dismantle it. So they can let whatever's being held back come through. That's why they're saying they don't know what might come through. But now that they done started this machine up, they're starting to hear demons and all types of stuff now because they're getting close to this.
Now, I hope I've set the tone for that. It was a little bit longer, but I wanted to set the tone and the basis for that because that's very important. I apologize if it was too long.
No, it's fine.
But you have to set the groundwork. That's how deep this is. So now let me further along with this. A few weeks ago, God began to speak to me about Black Lives Matter. It was both subtle, yet a strong conviction. The Holy Spirit began to move in my spirit and enlighten me or give me a revelation as to what has transpired and is transpiring before us. For hundreds of years, the Black race, particularly here in America, has been downtrodden, used and treated on a class level almost equal to animals. Human zoos, slavery, Jim Crow, the civil rights movement, infiltrating and poisoning by the powers. Blacks were injected with syphilis and treated like we didn't matter. And now, since the 60s, we've made great strides. We began to find ourselves in this country and take our place as Americans. Yet, with discrimination in housing, jobs, along with the placement of drugs in our communities, beginning in the 1970s, Along with police brutality, we still reflect hardships. God's Spirit made it crystal clear that the devil went into the metaphysical realm. The metaphysical realm to exploit this dichotomy and conundrum. Black Lives Matter is that dichotomy and conundrum. The powers that be, in conjunction with the dark side, know that God created man with positive matter, like the pastor was saying. However, because of sin, mankind has the potentiality to act and react with a dual nature. What is that dual nature? It is the positive matter and negative matter existing within the host of the human body, the genome, the atom. This is deep, so follow me. The powers have, in this generation, created the technology to break through 73 types of brick and enter into the beehive host of evil in the core of the earth. This place is called the CERN, located in Switzerland. Many theologians believe this is the place where God cast demons, then bound them until the day of judgment. They were the rebellious ones from the first recorded heavenly war. Dark matter. Dark matter. With that, the powers needed to orchestrate a George Floyd type setting so the entire earth would chant, Black Lives Matter. That married the metaphysical with the physical plane. So now when we chant Black Lives Matter, chanting is like seeking a witch or a spirit. One summons the evil of, you guessed it, the negative matter. So once you believe and chant for Black Lives Matter, you inadvertently summon demons. So we have been duped, been bamboozled, deceived into thinking we were helping the Black cause, but in reality, we were destroying our country and creating passage to the dark side, calling these demons from out of these rocks, out of this domain called the CERN. Now they are amongst us. These demons, which have been locked in chains and closed off by rock and the Holy Spirit, are amongst us because of the chant of Black Lives Matter. No longer as a host in Switzerland, but in country by country, city by city, and town by town, the presence of dark matter has been drawn. You follow me at this on how this works?
Let me see if I do, and I think I do. What you're saying is that there was legitimate, and as we all know this, a legitimate struggle for African American people throughout the centuries, that we began to make progress, but now a great deception has taken place. Black Lives Matter is a manipulation being used by the dark forces on the other side, and which are streaming their way into our realm through CERN to deceive the people and actually to corrupt the real message of unity that we've been trying to achieve.
There you go. And like a car whose generator is separated from its battery or host, these demons remain active by the belief throughout the world. There are generals, captains, sergeants, corporals, and privates, each specializing in their field toward destruction. You see, the longer and the louder the chant, the darker the earth becomes, opening more portals throughout. The powers needed our energy to draw this dark matter from coast to coast, setting the stage for the New World Order. George Floyd's place of death was on a metaphysical plane as well. George Floyd died on 36th and Park. To me, 36 is 666. Remember, he died on 36th Street and Park.
Right.
Park in Gematria, P is 16, A is 1, R is 18, and K is 11. That equals 46. 46 was the same age of George Floyd when he died. Same goes for the police cars. George Floyd died under a police car, 320. That was the number of police car. 3 times 2 is 6. George Floyd was driving a Mercedes 320. There you have it again. Now, to show event was operating in the metaphysical realm, you also see 6 on a garbage can. So watching, again, Dr. Winnie Hartstrong, she asked the question, why the George Floyd event? 1, to destroy the social fabric of our nation. 2, strip away any major statues or symbols. 3, destroy small businesses. And 4, energy to draw spirits from the CERN. So you think this presentation is crazy, bizarre, far-reaching, and over the top. You have that right. Let me say this. If the cognitive component of the brain is inconsistently stimulated by the truth, then mankind runs the risk of never identifying with the truth. It is the intent of America's foes to destroy us from within. One way is to create such a wedge between black and white and any other group that our basis for solidarity remains fragile, allowing the dark side to waltz right in. The old saying, a nation divided cannot stand, is just as true today as it's ever been. This is the only time in history whereby America and the world are linked under the UN, Federal Reserve banking system, technology, and a cabal. You see, not only is Big Brother watching you, but he's establishing an order or web where you cannot operate without it. From this, the Antichrist reign will arrive. The clouds of deception have been over our land and world for decades. It's so prevalent and it's almost a natural part of the makeup of our society. This is how you take over a country, by gradual means, moving slowly, precise, and cunningly that no one notices. Convincing,
like the frog in the proverbial warm water that's brought to a boil slowly and he dies, as opposed to throwing him into boiling water and he'll jump out.
Right. Intended to even kill off the just in the name of progress for country and the world. Now, this other part is the part that's going to knock your socks off. I accidentally miscalculated the numbers while I was doing gematria, in which the calculation led to 1984. I immediately went into shock when I saw this number, because the world has been in awe of the book 1984 since its release. Well, I continued down the rabbit hole while trying for a day and a half plus to recalculate how I came up with 1984. Then it hit me. God don't make no mistakes. Yes, the calculation came out to be higher. It came out a higher number when I was doing some calculations on the George Floyd and 1984 and the CERN, and I figured out later on how I came up with it. But again, God had me make the mistake on purpose to lead to something I'm going to show you. The revelation of 1984, quote, the unknown version, stared me right in the face. Now I want to play just a little part, 2 minutes of the 1984, a little refresher.
Published a novel that illustrated a dystopian future, well, future at the time. In the year 1984, The world has taken an unrecognizable shape. All remnants of what used to be, now destroyed, as the 20th century took a horrendous turn. Orwell imagined a world where totalitarianism reigned, individualism was dead, and reality and history was simply a matter of opinion. Of course, this never happened, as it was just fiction. But the novel 1984 has resurged in popular culture because many have made connections between this dark society and our own. Orwell never saw the rise of the internet or the policies of the 21st century, but his novel has been treated by some as almost a foreshadowing. Constant surveillance of every citizen by INSAC, constant surveillance by every government against its own citizens, those sort of connections. And this has only gotten more popular as more compared this dystopian society and our own. This video isn't meant to compare our society and Orwell's. This video is simply a summary of the politics, history, and world in the scenario Orwell crafted. Unsurprisingly, this is going to have some spoilers as this video fully fleshes out the world and society of 1984. Let's start off with some history. How does the world become this? In Orwell's novel, the 20th century is one long tragedy. The potential of humanity and this great path of civilization is entirely squandered in just a few decades. Since the novel was published in 1949, it's not surprising this is where the future begins to go downhill. It all started after World War II and the dawn of the Cold War. The precursor division of the world already has begun to be seen. For us, in the 21st century, we know how it ends. Soviet Union falls, nuclear war never happens, etc., etc. But in Orwell's timeline, there is no decades-long tension of the Cold War between America and Russia. Instead, sometime in the early 1950s, World War III breaks out. Nuclear bombs were used on major cities of...
Okay, so that's the basic overview of 1984.
Right.
So hold on to your hats, people. George Orwell, book date, it's called 1984, but it was written in 1948. George Floyd's death, 5/25 of 2020. Eric Gardner's death, July 17th, 2014. Why is Eric Gardner in this? I will show you. Eric Gardner was a precursor or a prelude to George Floyd, and I'm going to prove that. And I am going on to record. 1984 book was written for the future. It was written for what just happened in 2020. It was written because it was a plan. And the numbers are going to bear that out. We live in a spiritual world, people, the metaphysical world. And because these demons have been let out, they are aiding in fulfilling the prophecies of the book of Revelation and Daniel. And all I am is a vessel being utilized to connect the dots to show you. Just meditate on what I'm about to say. And trust me, the Holy Spirit will tell you. CERN was created September 29th, 1954. And again, Eric Gardner said, I can't breathe. It's going to be redundant, but here we go. George Orwell's book was written in 1984. Was written in 1948. It was published in 1984. Eric Gardner's death was 7/17/2014. If you subtract the 1984 from 1948, you get 36. If you subtract the 1984 from the 1948 from the 2014, you get 66. I'm going to say it again. If you subtract the book of 1948 from Eric Gardner's death of 2014, you get 66. You're going to continue to see 36 and 66 in all these numbers. George Floyd died 5/25/2020. The CERN was created in 9/29/54. If you subtract George Floyd's death of 2020 from the beginning of CERN, 1954, you get 66. If you subtract 1948, the day the book was finished, from the CERN of 1954, you get 6. When you look at George Floyd's death date and the CERN in number of days, you get 24,328 days. Divided by 365 days, you get 666. George Orwell, his pen name is, of course, George Orwell. Do you know his real name?
I do not. What is it?
His real name is Eric Arthur Blaine.
Okay.
Who died on July 17th, 2014? Eric Gardner. Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes, there is a pattern here for sure. And gematria would tie that up.
George Orwell's real name is Eric. In 2014, Eric Gardner died. I can't breathe. Now, here's another one. George Orwell and George Floyd have the same first name. Look at this, people. That's called a mathematical improbability. There is no way you can tell me that this man wrote a book. His plain name and his real name matched 2 black men that died. Eric Gardner, George, and George. Prove me wrong. Isn't that what the Congress lady who ran for Congress, isn't that what she said? Prove me wrong.
Yep.
You tell me God don't bring revelations. There it is.
Yeah, that is exactly what she said.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Both George Floyd and George Orwell died, and get this, at 46 years old. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Both men set the tone and tenor for a new world order system. A new social construct changed the whole world after George Floyd died, in conjunction with I'm speechless. And so when he wrote this book, it changed the world too, because we've been looking for what he's been talking about, the all-seeing eye. If you take George Orwell's date of birth, get this, 6/25/1903, and you subtract it from Eric Gardner's date of birth, 9/15/1970, you get 66. Subtract 1903 from 1970 and do the math. It comes out to 66 years. Prove me wrong. Eric Gardner's death date of 7/17/2014. Subtract from the CERN of 9/29/1954 equals 60. And Prince wrote the song Purple Rain. And like I told you in previous broadcasts, it wasn't the R-A-I-N.
It was R-E-I-G-N, wasn't it? Yes.
He released it in 1984. Where have I heard that before?
Oh.
1984. If you subtract Purple Rain of 1984 from 2020, you get 36.
And we talked about those royal blue colors, did we not?
Prove me wrong. People, it took 2 weeks for this to come to me. It came out in bits and pieces. I'm a very sensitive gentleman, and I'm strong as a rock. But I shed a few tears because, again, I told myself I'm special. And I'm special in the sense that he's using me. What do these numbers mean? What are they really saying? To me, God is speaking. He's letting us know that this whole thing has been a fraud. We have been living in a movie. They wrote a book, but they didn't give us the second part of the book. I just gave you the second part of the book. I am no relation to George Orwell. I'm just a vessel. What I just gave you, there's no way in the world two black men have the same first man as an author who wrote a book about the last days and the all-seeing eye and government taking over the world. So this had to be planned, people. It had to be planned. What is his name? See his name there? It's right there.
Yep. George
Eric.
Orwell, Eric Arthur Blair.
Eric. Sometimes things are right in our face.
Died at the age of 46.
There you
George
go.
Floyd died at the age of 4. How old was Eric Gardner when he died?
43.
43.
Good.
All right.
Yeah, I crossed all the, I love the way you think. Yeah, when I got done with just this, I said, God, I don't want to see them more guys. You got me. You got me, God. God is saying to us, I'm coming again. I'm coming again. And I'm letting you know I'm at the door. This has got to be one of the biggest cover-ups ever that the world has ever seen. We will utilize in terms of our energy to bring this dark matter over around the whole earth. We were fooled by the Gardner situation. And then this man writes this book. Come on, people. Now we can go through the photographs bit by bit.
I've actually been putting them up as you've been talking. The only one I was unable to download, and that's because it was sent in a format that I can't upload here, was the one of Barack Obama. But I've got the, I can put most of them on the screen. Obviously, this is, if you look at the screen now, Franchot, here's 1984, the book by George Orwell. We just showed his photograph as well. And again, fascinating. Eric Arthur Blair. Never knew that.
So what I can do now, there's a gentleman, a historian that I love. His name is Wayne Jett.
Yes.
You probably heard of him.
I have.
He wrote a book called The Fruits of Graft. I want to play about 5 minutes of what he is saying and alluding to what's going on right now.
Let's do it.
McKinley, with Theodore Roosevelt as his vice presidential candidate, therefore becoming president. My opinion is that McKinley was most likely assassinated because he was offending the ruling elite, because they wanted imperial war, as we already fought the Spanish War under the first McKinley presidency, and he didn't want to do it anymore. And so Theodore Roosevelt was their guy. And in 1901, just after McKinley, just after Roosevelt had taken power, there came out another little book that really got not much attention at all from ordinary Americans. But it became the what I call the manifesto of the ruling elite that set up their game plan. It was disguised in a little book that was written by, at that time, an unknown author by the name of H.G. Wells from Britain, a commoner who had a kind of a classy education, but he had written only nonfiction and horror stories up to that point. But this book, called Anticipations, in 1901, got him an immediate invitation as the honored guest at the Theodore Roosevelt White House. And it was because hidden back in a little book that looked like it was nothing but academic gibberish about populations and how they grow or something of the sort, was actually laying out the declaration to the insiders of the ruling elite that our plan is that we must act now to destroy the middle class entirely. All of the people who are able to support themselves by their own productivity at whatever level, whether they're very successful or whether they're just barely supporting themselves, we want them all gone, because they've got a hold of this idea of so-called democracy or Republican voting, that they really have the right to elect their own politicians and leaders. We can't put up with it anymore. We've got to go back now to the two-class system of rulers and those who serve us. And that's our full intent, and we're going to do it. We have to develop as quickly as we can the means of doing it. They laid out a number of the parts of their apparatus, a deep state or a shadow government behind the national government of every government in the world, certainly including the U.S. government. Other aspects were a central bank, a network of central banks privately owned by them to take over the issuance of money. Certainly they were going to try war, but by the year 2000, they said their objective must be to be able to learn how to poison the people of the abyss, the people of the world they didn't want, in such numbers that they could really get down to the number of people that they wanted. But it was clearly stated they were to, their intention was, and their goal was to wipe out the middle class the world over entirely, so that no person claiming to represent himself or support himself could possibly have political power or the control of any government. So that has been the experience since 1901. Henry or H.G. Wells, the author of that book, obviously was just the scribe. It wasn't his ideas out of his own mind. He was being told these things, and they were written and passed around hand to hand, such as in that reception for Henry George at the Theodore Roosevelt White House. Margaret Sanger, the rest of the intellectuals of the so-called Planned Parenthood, it became, to do as many abortions and so forth as possible. The vaccinations, learning how to kill people that way and so forth. All of these things were part of that. And of course, it comes around to, in today's circumstances, we've just had this so-called virus problem that is very much a part of that apparatus trying to go after people. Now, there are a number of important events other than just what I've described within that time period, obviously. We've had the crash of 29. We've had the Great Depression. We've had World Wars I and II. We've had the Great Influenza. All of these things of 1918. All of these events have been those planned events. There's plenty of evidence for it. I've gone into it in great, and not in exhaustive detail, I think, but in the necessary detail to put it all down with references so people can study it for themselves.
The fruits of graft.
Wow. Wow.
Man.
Wow. Wow. What an incredible. Wayne Jett really puts it all together, doesn't he?
This guy is an encyclopedia. And I don't believe in, like I said, just like I stumbled upon 1984 by accident doing some geometry math. I said, God doesn't make mistakes, because if I had...
And there are no coincidences either.
No. People, what this man is saying is that ever since 1901, and maybe even before, everything, all these major events, they've been scripted. They get these authors and they have them write these books, including Orwell. Look, it's just that basic. Because there is no way in the, that's, again, I'm going to say it. It's a mathematical improbability that George Orwell's two first names match these two black guys. Prove me wrong.
No one can. I don't think anybody can prove you wrong, Franchot. I don't think anyone could take a shot at it.
This evidence, George Orwell died. George Floyd died in 2020. The CERN was created in 1954. That's 66 years. Subtract the books of 1948 from the CERN, 1954, that's 6. I mean, how does all this math come out? How does all this math come out? There's no way in the world. It had to be planned. Prince getting involved, the Purple Rain, all these predictions. There's no way. Everything's been scripted. And I asked God, I'm like, God, where's your script? He says, it's in the Bible. I write my word in your heart. That's why I want you to speak. I want you to tell people that I sacrifice so you don't have to go through this forever, that I love you, that I sent my only begotten son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. That's your gift. I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, you will be. I'm going to create a new heaven and a new earth. Yes, the devil's having his little playground right now, but let me show you what he's doing. He gave you an opportunity to have your show. A divine hand sent me your way, and here I am revealing stuff. That's how God works. I had no idea I would meet Mr. Zilbeck, but God guided me here. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do.
Well, I'm glad that you finally, your voice is powerful. Your message needs to be heard. And I'm glad that you have started your own YouTube channel as well, because I want to I'd recommend as many of my people as possible, my viewers, please go to Franchot Pearson's channel and subscribe. Don't just watch one of his videos or whatever. Subscribe to the channel so that when he posts, you'll be alerted. You can click the little bell on there. And we're not on YouTube anymore because YouTube kicked us off, and I hope they don't kick you off. But if they do, Franchot, you always have a place on our channel. There's also Rumble and BitChute, so you can always go there. But don't ever stop doing what you're doing, because I'm glad to have you here every couple of weeks. I mean,
look, I appreciate it. I did have a strike because I talked about Corona about a month ago. All I did was ask a question. It wasn't nothing out of the ordinary. And they suspend me for a week. I'm like, okay, God, what do I do now? I'm scared. And so God has had me kind of navigate my way through. And I edit before I put things on there. And I'm asking God to send me certain technical people, because I'm going to get this word out. Again, because these people are not shy about what they're putting these clues right in our face. Right in our face. And God is saying, look, I want to show you what I'm saving you from. If you just come to me and accept me as your savior. I don't know about you. I have to stay close to God at this point.
We all have to.
I trust what's going on in this world. They are, in other words, if they plan this, Mr. Wayne Jett has in one of his videos, he said this wasn't done with benevolence in mind.
No.
He has one show where he talks about, and I read it before, they've already ordered the caskets. Remember all the caskets they ordered a few years ago? They were ready.
You've got the body bags and the caskets and guillotines too, by the way.
Thank you. People, they were ready. If Trump did not, if the first Trump had not come aboard, we would be in this new world order. And if you resisted, they had a plan to slowly get rid of us, just like the book suggests in 1984. So we are on a time of grace. In layman's terms, we could call it borrowed time. We are living in even the math shows that everything was supposed to end in 2020. The George Floyd situation, according to my geometric research, that one event was supposed to change the whole world like a tornado, that within a month or 2 months, they were going to lock everything down. I'm telling you, God showed me they were supposed to have, everything was set. Trump played a certain game and danced, and I'm just telling you, in a sense, he was a savior. You might not like his politics, some of the crazy things he does, but I can't question how God uses certain people. I don't even know why he used me. I'm just a little old guy who stuttered. I had tutors all my life. I couldn't speak till I was 3 years old, but he has had his hand on me. I fall short of the glory of God, but I'm focused on my journey. I'm telling you, people, these are the last days, and you probably heard it before with Jimmy Swaggart and different evangelists back in the day, but I'm giving you the numbers. I'm giving you something that all those evangelists back in the day did not give you. I'm giving you cold, hard facts through numbers, which few people can do. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. I read the history of 1984. I read this guy's biography, but not until this week, I'm sitting up there reading, and God's like, look at his name. An audible voice. And it said Eric, and it hit me. I says, my God, Eric Gardner, George Orwell, George Floyd, come on, man. You tell me the Holy Spirit doesn't talk? He speaks to us. He speaks to us. Please subscribe on my channel. God is pouring out his Spirit on me. I want people to know what God is doing so they can get right with God, because something's about to happen and we need to be ready. That's
absolutely. And we will talk to you in 2 weeks again. Again, please subscribe to Franchot Pearson's YouTube channel, and don't just subscribe, also click the bell so that whenever he posts something, you'll be notified that it's up there and you can go see it. And Franchot, thank you for revealing yourself and being with us. It's a handsome face, a good man, and we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you so
All right.
much. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Franchot Pearson here, a.k.a. Emmanuel Blue. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Jenny Silcox is going to be joining us, talking about the dangers of robotics and AI as Dark Outpost continues, well, in just about 3 minutes.